The quadratic formula is another method for solving a quadratic equation. We've already gone over other methods that we could use this week. We talked about solving by factoring and using the square root method. All of those methods will give you the same exact answer. So even if you don't like using the quadratic formula at the end of this, which is okay with me, you're still going to have to practice using it when I give you that assignment. Now, what is the whole point of solving the quadratic equation? What are we looking for when we solve it?
X.
X what?
The x-intercepts.
It gives you the x-intercepts of the graph. It gives you the x-intercepts. Now, one thing that we always have to make sure is that your equations are written in standard form, but we had also worked with vertex form. So make sure they are in standard form. Make sure they are in order with x squared, x in the middle, number by itself at the very end. But notice how the standard form of an equation is labeled. A is the number in front of the x squared, B is in front of x, C will always be the number added or subtracted to the very, very end. So the quadratic formula, it is on your reference chart. It's on your reference chart. What part of this do you think is going to be? I understand that seeing a square root symbol, seeing that radical symbol in a formula, seeing a plus minus symbol in a formula is weird, but there is something very, very special about this formula. What was the one thing that was very special about the vertex form? What was the one thing I told you guys to always be careful with? The h, because even though it's written as x minus h, it is actually considered what kind of number? It's a positive number. So what number do you think we're going to have to be careful with in this formula? The b. Notice how this minus b or this negative b is already part of the formula. So say, for example, you were plugging in a -3, two negatives make a positive. You always think of this as the opposite of what it actually is. The -4 is 100% part of the formula, is going to be there no matter what. It's always going to be -4. And it's always going to be 2 times whatever number. But with this one, with this value in the very, very front of the equation, you have to think of it as the opposite. Opposite. Whenever I was in school, we didn't get this formula on the formula chart. So that's how I was able to memorize it. Opposite of b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4ac. Opposite of b, okay? So just repeat that to yourself. Now, a, b, and c, these are the numbers that, that we're going to grab from the equation to insert or to substitute into this equation. Now, because I'm going to always write the opposite here, I don't have to worry about substitution, but I do have to worry about substitution in these locations where you have the b squared, 4a, and c. Also a at the very bottom. We are going to be substituting numbers in those spots. Anytime you substitute, you want to use parentheses. And I'll be able to show you with the second example why that is important, okay? So you want to use parentheses. Let's get started with the first example. You always want to make sure that every equation is set equal to 0. What does it mean to set it equal to 0?
Equal 0.
What do you do to the equation? Make sure that what? Every term is on the same side. 2x squared plus 7x minus 9. Now, looking at just that equation individually, not thinking about all of the stuff that we're about to learn, what that we're about to do, how else could you solve that? You cannot. It's already combined. X squared does not add to x. There is something. We went back over it on Wednesday, so it's not something brand new. What's up? Okay, but before you could put those numbers into the diamond, what do you have to do? You kidnap, you multiply the 2 with the -9. You factor it, and then you solve for x. So Once again, even though we're learning how to use the quadratic formula, you still have kidnapping in your back pocket to use, okay? Now, this one is already solved. All of my terms are already on the same side, x squared plus 7x minus 9. We're going to take these numbers, and these are the numbers that we're going to insert into our formula. You never, ever actually insert the x. Those are placeholders. They're telling you what numbers to use. So if we write the variables under the numbers, you see your ax squared plus bx and your c. So the number that I'm going to plug in for A is what? 2, and B, 7, and C, -9. So you want to identify those numbers first. First, you need to know what is my A, B, and C. The hardest part about using the quadratic formula is plugging in the numbers correctly, okay? So we're going to start off with x equals. Start off with x equals. And we always go ahead and write what? The opposite of B. We're not going to worry about plugging it in. We're just going to go ahead and write it as the opposite of B. What is B? What is your number for B? It's 7. So instead of writing 7, we're going to write it as -7. Always write the opposite of B. And then we plug in the rest of the spaces. So draw your radical symbol, parentheses, leave it blank, squared, -4, parentheses, parentheses. And then you're going to draw a big division bar because everything, absolutely everything is going to be divided by 2a. A lot of students get into the habit of only putting the division bar under the radical, but that is not how it's seen in the formula. So don't make that mistake. That division bar goes under every single thing. So the first step is to plug your numbers into these spots. Here we see what? B squared. So what number will I plug into that spot? What is B? 7. The only time you do the opposite is in the very, very first number. Here, if it's a +7, plug in a positive. If it's negative, plug in a negative. -4, that's part of the formula that will never change. And then what do we put after 4? 2 for A, and then -9 for C. -4AC, -4AC, okay? And everything's gonna be divided by 2 times A. What is A? 2, okay? Questions on where those numbers come from? All right. Now, the next step is to simplify. Yeah. The next step is to simplify. We're going to simplify it in a very certain order. I tried to do it in a different order in my first period, and that didn't really work out. So before you start typing things into your calculator, make sure you stick with me first. I will show you how to type it in the calculator. Just stay with me. We're going to simplify 2 things from the first step to the next. We're going to simplify all of this, and with your other color, all of that. Now, the bottom part of this is always pretty easy to do in your head, I hope. I hope nobody needs the calculator to multiply 2 times 2. So what part did I not highlight? What part doesn't change? The -7, but also plus minus. I had somebody ask me earlier, how do you type in plus minus in the calculator? You don't type this in the calculator. The radical is what we're going to end up typing, okay? But not yet. So bring down that -7 plus minus. That's the only thing that does not change in the first step or in the second step. First step is to plug in. All right. Now, in this order, first, we're going to type all of the numbers that we have under the radical, including your parentheses. And then we're going to try to find the square root of that number. In first period, we did it all together, but didn't really work out because sometimes we would get a decimal, sometimes we wouldn't. So
is it minus or negative?
It's always -4. If it's in parentheses, negative. this will always be -4, always. So if you need to write yourself a little arrow, this will always be minus. It will always be minus. If it's in the parentheses, negative, that will always be minus. All right, so parentheses, 7 parentheses squared, -4 to -9. Yes, you can go ahead and press enter if you want. And what do we get? 121. Now, before writing 121, I'm going to go ahead and take the square root of that. So, square root of 121. And you get 11. Don't do that. I specifically said don't do that. And I'll show you why with another example. Do it in this order, please. Okay, so you get 11 from that. And then both of those numbers will end up being divided by 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Do you think we will continue? Yes. Why? They're whole numbers. If you have a whole number, if you end up with whole numbers on every side or every spot, you split it and you combine. If you end up with the whole number in every spot, you have to split and combine. You have to finish solving for X, just like the note that we wrote in yesterday. You have to finish solving for X. We're going to split that plus minus symbol. For those of you that weren't here yesterday, the reason we have a plus minus symbol is because positive 11 times positive 11 gives you positive 121. And then negative 11 times negative 11 also gives you positive 121. So both positive 11 and negative 11 give you 121. Plus, minus, let's split it up. So on the left side, we're gonna have X equals -7 plus 11 over 4. On the right side, we're gonna have X equals -7 minus 11 over 4. And there is your plus minus symbol. The plus minus symbol belonged to the 11, not the 7, because I've had some people working out that square root stuff, and they start out with the -7, and then on this one, they take it away. No, that's not how that works. Now, because a lot of students are having trouble simplifying this by starting with the top and then dividing by 4, we're going to type it all together in alpha y equals, okay? Just go ahead and type it all together in alpha y equals. X equals and alpha y equals -7 plus 11. And on the bottom, you're 4. Press enter, and what do you get? You get 1. So X equals 1. All right, now do the other one. -7 minus 11. And you get -9 over 2. -9 over 2. Now, if this were griddable, how would we bubble in -9 over 2? How do we switch it back to a decimal? Math, decimal, enter. Not math, enter, enter. Math, decimal, enter, enter. You have to switch it to decimal. And what do you get? -4.5. Now, this one and -4.5 represent what? These two numbers represent your x-intercepts. These represent your x-intercept. So if you were to look at a graph, you would see the parabola crossing at a +1 and at a -4.5, okay? But once again, please do it in the order I'm showing you. Next one. Example 2. This one actually comes with a question attached to it. How do we know we're looking for the x-intercept? It says the word solution, but with this type of question, they're asking for a specific solution. Which one? The positive solution. Positive solution, okay? Now, first thing I'm gonna do is draw a line down the equal sign and see if I need to do anything to fix it. Do I? Yeah, what do I need to move? Minus 7x and minus 2. I'm gonna go ahead and move both things over at the same time. Minus 7x, minus 2. Anybody have a problem with that? Okay, I just didn't know if I needed to do it in 2 steps. 7 minus 7 is 0, 2 minus 2 is 0. When you're bringing your terms down, remember, bring them down in order. They have to be in order for standard form. So what is the first term that I bring down? And that gives me my equal 0. All right, I'm going to highlight those numbers and write my ABC under it. Oh, God. And I'm going to write ABC under it. So what is A? What are we going to plug in for A? B? Negative 7 and C. If it's a minus 2, it's a negative 2. Let's set up that formula. Ready? All right. You always start by writing x equals. And the first number that we write is what?
B.
Not B.
A.
The opposite of B. The opposite of B. What is B? B is negative 7 currently. So the opposite of B would be positive 7. So 7 plus minus. All right. Now draw that radical symbol and go ahead and draw all of your parentheses. The minus 4 will always be there. And I will wait for you here. Ready? What number do you plug in right before the squared?
A.
Negative 7. What about after the 4?
A. 4.
A, which is 4. And at the end? Negative 2. If you forget, it's written right here. And at the bottom? 4. Just 4, just 4. The only one that you do the opposite is this one. Okay. All right, so we're going to simplify 2 things at the same time. This and this. But before you start typing, go ahead and bring down that what? X equals 7 plus minus, because that part we don't type into the calculator. So with this example, this is the example I'm going to use to show you why you need to use the parentheses. So you guys use the parentheses. I'm going to type it without. 7 squared minus 4 times 4 times negative 2. Okay. So first you type whatever's under the radical, and then you take the root of it. Mine gave me an error. Why did mine give me an error? Think about it. Nope. Look at my end. What did y'all get as your answer? What? Y'all got 81, and I got negative 17 because I didn't use parentheses. The reason I got negative 17 is because it's not including this negative into my squared. So here, what the calculator did is square the 749 minus whatever this multiplies out to be. 4 times 4 is 16 times negative 2. Then it gives you a positive what? Something, whatever, doesn't matter. But you cannot take the square root of a negative number. That's why you get error. That's why you must use parentheses, okay? All right, so you get 81. Did y'all take the square root of it? What did you get? 9. And 2 times 4 at the bottom? 8. Do we continue? Yes, if you get whole numbers, and this is written on every problem, so you can circle and underline it every time because we are going to see decimals as well. If you get whole numbers on every side or in every spot, make sure you split it and continue. You have to finish it all the way through. X equals 7 plus 9 over 8. X equals 7 minus 9 over 8. So your plus and your minus was split up here and here. What does the first answer give you? 2. And what about the second one? -1/4. And -1/4 is what as a decimal? -0.25. But which one of these two x-intercepts are we going to bubble in? The 2. It said, the question stated it wanted the positive answer, so it just wanted the 2. Just wanted the 2. Got it? All right. Well, it's a lot of writing, not a lot of really steps. I think you type most of this in the calculator. All right, example 3. How do we know we're looking for the x-intercepts? Solutions. Draw a line down the equal sign. How do I fix it? Minus what? Minus x minus 6 minus x minus 6. All right, what do I bring down first? 5x squared, then what? And we can combine the 4 minus 6. We combine the 4 minus 6 because we're only supposed to have 3 terms. 4 minus 6 gives us -2. I'm not going to write the equal 0. But highlight those numbers. That way you actually pick up the correct one. Write your ABC. So what are we going to plug in for A? What about B? -1. I had some people shout out -x earlier. -1. -1. You want to make sure you understand that there is an invisible 1 there. You don't type an x into the calculator. So 5, -1, and then what? -2. 5, -1, -2. Ready? Let's start our equation by writing x equals, and we start off with what? +1. The opposite of B, +1. All right, what do I plug in front of the square? -1. What about after the 4? 5, and then after? And at the bottom? 5. All right, we're going to simplify the radical and the 2 times 5. And with this one, I will show you why you do it in the order I'm showing you how to do it. I'm going to go ahead and put it with the radical. -4 -2. Got it? And what do we get? What? No, after the square root. So you get a decimal. You get a decimal. Now, if you do it with the radical symbol right away, you would be forced to type all of this again because you need to know what number is under the radical. okay? But doing it the way you guys did it, -1 squared minus 4 times 5 times -2. Now you know what the number under the radical is. That way, if it gives you a decimal, you don't have to type everything all over again, okay? So just do it that way, please. Because it gave you a decimal, what do? We stop, we leave it under the radical. We practiced that yesterday, okay? And 2 times 5 is what? 10. So if you get a decimal, you stop. That's where you do not split, you just stop. Got it? And that would be your answer. That's how your answer choice would look like. 1 plus minus square root of 41 over 10. X equals 1 plus minus square root of 41 over 10. All right, example 4. How do you know we're looking for the x-intercepts? It says the word zeros. It gives us the word zeros. Where am I at? There it is. Do I need to fix that equation? Yes or no? By doing what? Add 1. Bring down your x squared minus 4x plus 1. And identify what your A, B, and C are. So what are we going to plug in for A? B, -4, and C, 1. 1, -4, and 1. 1, -4, 1. That's what you should write on the bottom. All right, let's write our equation. X equals what? +4 plus minus. +4 plus minus. Parentheses. All right, what number do we plug in with the squared? -4. After the 4?
1.
After the 1?
1.
And the bottom? 1. Okay, go ahead and type that in. And let me know what you get. You get a decimal. So because we got a decimal, we have to go back again. So what number was supposed to be under the square root, under the root symbol? 12. You stop if you get a decimal. Y'all didn't get decimals? No, you should have gotten a decimal. All right, check your screens. Did you do everything at once? That's okay. Yeah, put it in the square root. So -4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 1. I haven't used the square root symbol yet, right? So now if I put the 12 under the square root, it gives me a decimal. So I can't use this decimal. I got to use the square root of 12. Get it? Okay. But because we did keep it under square root, that's where we stop. That is my answer. Got it? All right. Number 5, how do we know? All right. There is another keyword in there though. It says solution what? Set. Thank you. On it. Solution set. When it's asking for the set, notice you're going to see the brackets. Is this the same as having parentheses? No. All right. But we do need to fix the equation by adding 15. X squared plus 8x plus 15. A lot of people were forgetting to move the 15 back over or make sure that all of the terms were on the same side. Don't be that person. All right, 8 and 15. We're gonna label it as A, B, and C. So what number are we gonna plug in for A, B, and C? 1, 8, and 15. 1, 8, and 15. All right, I start off with x equals what? -8 plus minus. -8 plus minus. Parentheses. Everybody have that? What number do you plug in with the squared inside? After the 4? And at the end? On the bottom? All right. Bring down your x equals -8 plus minus. What do you get? Okay, you get a 2. And 2 times 1 is? So we got whole numbers on all sides. What do? Split it. We got to split the plus minus. So x equals -8 plus 2 over 2. On the minus side, x equals -8 minus 2 over 2. Anybody got that first one? X equals -3. And the second one? X equals -5. So once again, to write it as a set, how would you write it? -3, comma, -5. This is not, once again, it's not an ordered pair. It's not saying that the vertex is -3, -5, okay? Those are x-intercepts. It's crossing at -3 and at -5.